Hi, everyone. Welcome to Optimize for Humans. I'm Usha, your host and executive coach and consultant, exploring this conversation around AI with all kinds of leaders who are finding themselves in all kinds of places when it comes to AI adoption. And I'm looking forward to speaking with Shaq Lawson this morning. Shaq, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Usha. I've been looking forward to this for a while now, so this is like the highlight of my week right now.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to hear that. Well, I'd love to start by having you introduce yourself a little bit. Give us a little bit about your background and what excites you about this topic.
Of course, Shaq Lawson. I'm the Senior Director of Operations and IT Support over at Business Insider. I've been in the operations, facilities management industry for well over about 14 years now. My experience spans from retail to e-commerce to media. I also have a nonprofit organization called the Black Visionaries. So well-rounded in many different spaces, different community, and just understanding how not only operations translates in each of those sectors, but also just understanding people and just like how to be the best for them in the fields that I service.
I love that. And I mean, I'd love to start with that people piece. We when we last spoke, we spoke about kind of the role of in-person connection versus online connection versus
Right.
AI in terms of facilitating those human moments. And you mentioned something around like how AI can't walk into a room and read how someone's doing, etc. So I'd love to just kind of start there and ask you, we miss a lot when it comes with AI, when we're leveraging AI, um, when it comes to like emotion and human dynamics and things like that. And what do you think that means in our work?
Yeah, I think when we look at AI as a whole, especially when it comes to like, workplace management and just anything that impacts people, to me it's very challenging to always rely on it. I think if you're trying to
Mm,
curate something or, make a program or some kind of like learning development situation where you're like, I think people will love this, it'll be great. So let's get a survey of like who will be involved. I think that's step one. I think step two is just the comfortability of like, do these people actually partake in things? Do they actually feel like there's an incentive in being a part of this? Because sometimes if the company doesn't have a culture, it doesn't matter what kind of programs and stuff you create. So it's like relying on AI for metrics and studies is great,
mm,
but implementation where it requires like a human to be present and that human participation determines the real success of things. I think that's where
yeah.
AI has the challenge. Like it's not really a emotional thing that you can like program and say like do this to make everyone happy. It's only going to go off of what we input into it and what it's seen the best results from. And
Hmm.
those best results are then considered to be a success factor. But the issue is, where are those results coming from? Where's that
Hmm.
data coming from? How big was that company? What kind of company was it? It's not a one size fits all. And I think the issue that I have with AI and like workplace situations or just like anything that takes away the ability for someone to have a voice is that piece
Mm,
that it doesn't cover the emotion part. It doesn't say like this person is not having a good day right now. The last thing they want to
right,
do is be around people. Like it can't
right.
measure like social meters. So yeah.
Yeah, like one example that I kind of think about when it comes to this is transcription tools have been really meaningful and really useful, but I also wonder about things like if we're using that to look at people's performance in a meeting or things like that. You can tell when you're in person how thoughtfully someone's listening, whether they're engaged or not, whether they may be upset or having a bad day, as you shared.
Exactly.
But just by going off of like transcription, you can't quite get that. So I think there's something to be said about like always remembering. I'm not saying we shouldn't leverage transcription. I do it all the time. I think
Mhm.
there's lots of insights to be pulled from things, but there is something about remembering the human element as part of that.
Yeah, and I think like to that same point, I use transcribing too. It's mostly in every meeting I'm in now because like we use
Hmm.
Google, so Gemini is present, you have Claude, you have a few other integrations, and that's okay. But the already like the loophole I've seen in that is something that you just said, where it's like measuring engagement based on these
Yeah.
transcripts. What about the person that may not? talk a lot,
Mm.
but sits down and takes amazing notes for themselves. How are we
Hmm.
transcribing the fact that this person is actively here taking notes? It's
Yeah.
hard to do that. But it's going off of voice, it's going off of participation, it's going off of this microphone. It's just like this person is participating in silence. So
Mm.
now when this meeting is done and they have a debrief on it, it's like, oh wow, they picked up on this, or they may have mentioned
Yeah.
something after the fact because time ran out or someone dropped early. So again, AI has its benefits, I think, on running data, I think on like
Hmm.
just doing the things that we would spend hours on spreadsheets in like 2 seconds, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But AI is not, it's not a citizen of America. It's not a citizen of the world. It's an employee
Yeah.
of the world at this point.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. One of the things I like about some of these conversations is I think they also surface some existing biases that we take for granted. I think the meeting one is a really good example. I know that sometimes the way that I process in meetings is I might not necessarily share a lot in the moment, but I take that information and I'll build things on the back of it and I'll share it with the team of like, oh, this is what this inspired. Here's an output that might look a certain way, etc. And all of those aren't coded in the same way, right? But I do think there's something to be said about how it exposes some of our biases around what we think of as competence and confidence and, what we measure as good performance. And I think that's a really useful mirror, if you will.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to be very conscious of is as technology advances, humans become lazy. So it's like
Yeah,
you don't want to
so true.
become that manager or that director or that leader of a company that's like when people first met you, like you were there, you were invigorating, you brought a good
Yeah,
energy and enigma, and then now you rely so much on AI because it allows you to get back time where it's just like, oh, that person's changed. They don't really care about the company now. They're really just about this, or
yeah,
like they've put a buffer or blocker in front of them. And I get it.
totally.
Sometimes, as leaders, time is very important. Bandwidth can be limited. And I get that. But I think the best investment is people. Because if this
Mm,
system goes down, if this plugin doesn't work,
yeah,
how do you now communicate? How do you now get the information that you need? It's not always a solution of, oh,
yeah,
let's just find the next one. It's just like, hey, before this, what did we do? This company
yeah.
didn't start on AI and we've been great. This is an enhancement, but it's not a necessity for us to continue running. Now, of course, there are many tech companies and tech leaders who may disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine because, again, it's not that I'm against
Yeah.
AI. It's just I don't want AI to take the importance of the human. And I think that as AI has developed, it's been a challenge for many people to understand like what's our culture now. Or the biggest fear
Mm,
that everybody doesn't want to talk about is okay, so AI's here. It does my job 100 times faster than me. Am I safe? And
right,
now the scary part is after I leave here, how do I know that I won't get replaced again by another
right.
AI integration or upgrade? So these are real things that again, the AI isn't going to pick up on it because it's just doing what it's asked to do. So we can't fault it. I think it's just about us being cognizant of how we use it and when we use it. So
Yeah, I think the fear piece is definitely something that we all need to be really mindful of. And I think, especially for leaders, to be proactive in kind of having those conversations with people. I don't think it's about, I don't know that we can make promises right now. And so I don't think it's about saying it's an absolute in this direction or in that direction. I think it's more about like recognizing uncertainty and staying with the values.
yeah,
And part of that is putting people first, and feeling into that
I
moment to
fully agree
moment.
with that. And I think that I even encourage leaders to like, hey, when you have a one-on-one or if you're like in a meeting room together and there's no real like agenda per se,
Mm,
have no laptops in the meeting. Just really sit down
yeah,
and keep that collaborative feel because those social skills are important. And I think that as technology advances, we're seeing people struggle. We're seeing way more
yeah,
introverts. Nothing against the introverts, but we're seeing people who
yeah,
are introverts by default because they just don't know how to socially be in a space and interact and get the same enjoyment that they can get and express behind a screen or running with a keyboard or something like that. So I think I encourage all managers, all leaders, just even if it's one time out the month, have a meeting with no technology and really just
yeah,
talk and get to know the person that you're working with. Because one, it helps you be a better manager, but two, it also creates a better bond and team building with everyone to see like,
yeah,
hey, my manager is here and invested. Like the phone isn't ringing. Slack isn't going off, Teams isn't going crazy. It's just us in this room having a
Yeah.
conversation about building and developing this team. So,
Yeah, I think too, yeah, I don't think it's just about introversion. I think it's distraction.
mhm.
Like we've made it really easy for people to be distracted, and I think urgency culture encourages it. So if I'm not responding to your Slack message immediately, even though I'm in meetings all day, there are these trade-offs that we make, and I'm not sure that we're always. I think we've created a culture where the default is quick responses, not necessarily balanced against, is this important, urgent, how urgent, how does this, I think just that prioritization muscle is a little bit lost. And I think it's understandably lost on some level. You're just like in the flow of your day and you're just being bombarded all the time. But I think there's something around that being bombarded all the time that is really meaningful and important. But what I like about what you're saying is just like, I think prioritizing the human moments more and the connection piece more, especially given the fear component that I do think everyone's experiencing to some degree. And I think even if you're not afraid of your job being lost, we're all in this moment of uncertainty and tremendous change, and we're all navigating that in different ways.
Yeah, and I agree. And I understand the factor of like, adaptation. I understand, evolving, and to be better, you have to refine. But that doesn't mean X out that person who may not be tech savvy, but is really
Yeah,
great with their hands and building things out. Or that person
yeah,
who, yeah, I don't really know how to translate my thoughts always onto a document and share it. Or that
yeah.
person that's just like, hey, I got all the information, I'm ready, I know what it is. And then they get in front of a group of people and then they stutter or
Hmm.
stumble. And now it's a
Hmm.
question of, do they really know what they're saying? So it's like, again, these are human things that if
Yeah,
we are having a conversation and you see me do that, regardless of my experience or where I've been from, the internal feel for you is going to be like something may be off with him. Like he's not usually like this.
mm.
Like what's going on?
Mm.
AI is
Of
going to pick it
course.
up as not really translating correctly, a bit hesitant,
Yeah,
and it's just like that's incorrectly reading the room. Like that's not what's
yeah.
happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I have heard people say, we're going to get sentiment analysis and once there's like video and all of those things. And I've heard one person say it's going to be great at empathy as well. And that's where I'd draw the line a little bit. I don't think faking empathy is the same as real empathy. And I take the stance that you need another human with another nervous system. I
Exactly,
think
and I
that's
think
the thing that big, go ahead.
yeah, and the biggest thing too is just like I feel like no one's really paying attention to it. It's almost like we're trying to create the human 2.0. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, we want to
100%.
give it empathy. We want to give it thoughts. We want to give it this. We want it to, it
Yeah,
cuts down time. And it's just like, it cuts down time, it cuts down importance, and it may cut down jobs.
yeah,
How many more cuts do we need? And exactly what is our end
yeah,
goal here? Because, human desire
yeah,
never ends. So it's like,
yeah.
how much further are we going to take this? I feel like at some point, our presidential candidates will be Gemini, Siri,
Oh
and
my
Claude
gosh.
at this point because we're
That's
giving them everything.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there's some interesting places that just to name one recent one that I've come across is like this is somebody who I think is the chief AI officer at Meta who is looking forward to being able to like have an AI chip in people's brains.
yeah. Wait,
Um anyway, that's a interesting and weird future that I am just going to table for now, um but there to our conversation, I think it is interesting to see and name what are the human pieces and how do we prioritize that. I think there's also this interesting thing about whole saving time thing. It definitely does save me time, but now there's more stuff I can do. So I'm
mhm.
actually busier than ever. And not just in terms of my actual time, input into work and whatnot, but cognitively, I feel pretty just like cognitively burnt out a lot. And I hear that as a pretty common experience with a lot of people because we're just now navigating more noise. We're navigating more information than ever. And so it's just an interesting, none of this is not an anti-AI stance, but I do want to normalize that we're all in a period of time where we're processing a lot more and our brains are tired. And while we may be saving time, we're also choosing to spend the freed up time on more things because now we have more things available to us. And all of that needs to be tempered by doing the human things like connecting and taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too is just like you sit there, you get more time. But me personally, I value the journey sometimes more than the
Mm,
reward. And
I love that.
I think that's the problem that we have right now. Like we're so focused on the reward, we're so focused on the solution, the execution, it's done, it's completed, next. And it's just like, what have we learned in any of
Yeah.
this? Like I think we were in a dangerous space where we're running through tasks so quick that we're learning nothing. We're just learning how to use the AI better. But
Mm,
if it's relying on input, it's relying on things that we're placing into it. What happens when we have nothing to put into it? What happens where we've eliminated so
yeah.
much of the journey, the steps, the setbacks, the things that can happen?
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, you want it this way, it's done this way. And then now you have to
Yeah.
continuously keep refining because now you're like, wait, we skipped this step, or wait, it didn't account for this and account for this. So for me, I value the
Yeah.
journey where it's just like, okay, this is going to take 10 steps. It may
Yeah.
take me 3 days to do it, but I promise you what I'll learn and develop or even uncover in those set of days will
Mm,
probably help me on future projects where I don't even really need this. Or I may get halfway on the journey and say, yeah, I don't even need that. Like it's so
yeah.
self explanatory. Or hey, we could do this ourselves even better and get more out of it. I'm
Yeah.
afraid we're in a space where so many people are like, now the expectations have changed. Like you're hiring people and it's like, oh yeah, so we need you to do this and do that. We already have this integrated, so just put this in there. And it's
Mm,
like people have now just become another number where it's just like, we
yeah.
got you, you're added, use a system, do that. And as long as you do that on time, we'll be fine. It's like, we don't care how creative you
Yeah.
are, we don't care how smart you are, as long as you're good enough to understand this. Like, and even if it's not said like that, that's kind of what it feels like sometimes. Like, imagine you went to school, you got an advanced degree, you are like a whiz at Microsoft Excel, you're good at Google Sheets, you're good at all of these systems that at the time were
Mm,
like the top notch. Like if you know this, you're good to go with everything. And then now
yeah.
you get to a job where you think you're going to get to use these skills. You can't wait to show like, yeah, I'm good with spreadsheets. Watch how I do this. And this AI thing comes in. It's just like, yeah, just put it in that. We'll be
Yeah.
fine. Or we prefer it through that. And it's just like, so have I wasted my life? Like, well, what's happened? So I think again, it ties back to that human part of you may want someone to make them feel amazing in the interview process. And then they get hired and be like, all right, we're glad you can do all that, but here's what we need you to do.
Mm,
Just focus on this, use this AI tool. We're focused on this only. I think the other thing is, which like I remember even like when the metaverse was created or
mm,
NFTs, and I'm like, everything has its time and then it
mm,
passes. I think with
mm,
AI, it's a bit longer, but I feel like it's going to have its time and it's going to pass. I think there's going to be some kind of giant AI mess up or like
mm.
setback or something that we would never think was possible is going to occur and it's going to create a fear, which then is going to have all these AI driven companies start pulling back slowly, but then realizing that they're so deep in a rabbit hole they can't. So now they got to refine. So
Yeah.
you see where AI,
Yeah. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
great as it can be, as good as it is as bad as it can be. That's literally as it is. You can't get one without the
Yeah. I both agree and disagree with you. I agree that I think there's going to be some kerfluffles, to put it
other.
lightly, along the way. I think the way we're approaching this is a little bit dangerous. And it's like the race to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
I think we're going to experience the consequences of that for sure. And I hope that we get past that and find and calibrate what this means in our lives in the same way that we have done with social media, with
Hmm.
computers and internet and all of these things. My worry with this is that it's moving so fast. The time scale is very different. And, we're going to just have to see what that means and how that plays out.
Yeah.
And and I wanted to just go back to there's a piece there around like I think for leaders as well, around the journey piece that you were talking about, I think that's
Hmm.
really important. And it really struck me when you said, like, we're treating people like a number, because that feels really true at this moment in time. And my
Hmm.
hunch is part of that is also just like the economic contraction. So people are hanging on to their jobs tighter. And so there's more permission. Yeah, it's like it's an employer's market, not an employee's market, right? So my worry with that is now we're just trying to like have, it's like, can you beat the AI? Like we're comparing people to the AI, and it's like number here and number there. And it's a very different narrative from, hey, if this thing is actually going to do a whole bunch of things that we've needed humans to do before, and it's maybe going to be more precise in some ways and better in some ways, faster in some ways, what does that leave the humans to do? What are the things that we're uniquely capable of?
Hmm.
My hope is that's the place that we get to, and that this actually unleashes both our time and our capacity to do the things that matter, rather than this weird race I think we're in right now. And I love that journey piece, because I think every leader should be thinking about that when it comes to their team, of like, what is the development journey of your people, not just how well can they use these tools, right?
Yeah, and I think something to add to that too is just like I'd be curious to see if any upcoming leader, because I want to also bring it to the generations to come, if
Mm,
there's a revolt against AI in a way where a company
mm,
can start from the ground up, be successful,
mm,
and say, hey, we don't use AI, and see what
mm.
kind of challenge that brings to society now, where it's just like everyone's kind of doing it, everyone's drafted into it, and then a new company comes and says, yeah, we're
Yeah,
not doing it at all because we value people, we value
yeah,
human interaction, we value the innovation and the refinement of the brain and how to do it. The other thing that I want to
yeah,
say that we haven't mentioned at all since we started chatting is the human will always be better than AI. Let's just put it out there. Humans created it. Humans are always going to
mm,
be better than AI, no matter how great. It's like when you're a coach and you're coaching a little league. The reason you're able to coach this little league is because you have a superior experience. You know
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
works and what
You came
doesn't.
before.
It's the same thing. We are
Yeah,
always going to be better because, like you said before, it's running so fast, but we're noticing that it's running so
yeah,
fast. So pointers are up for some people of just like, hey, we may need to legally start limiting some things, or we need to put some protections in
yeah,
place because
yeah,
society and trends have shown us that if you let something get too much power and it runs, it's like total power
yeah,
corrupts totally. Like you don't want that to be the
yeah,
situation here. So even with all the
100%.
opinions that I have about AI and the things that we can agree on or have like disagreements on, I think we can both say we know the human will always be better. I think for that same reason is why we have to keep the human as priority. We have to understand that, hey, this is great, but in the next 50 years, who's going to make something even better than it? In the next
Yeah,
100 years, what does the world look like? So for me, it's just like, it's why I value the journey. It's why I value the walk and taking your time. I measure 1,000 times and cut once.
mm,
Measuring once and
yeah,
cutting 1,000 times because it's so much better to tell the story of just like, yeah, when we
yeah,
were first building it, we were doing this and a third instead
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah,
yeah, we just put it in that and it did it. And then as a
yeah.
child, they'll be like, oh, so how did it do it? And how do you answer that?
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's my
that's
argument
why,
around
yeah.
AI art. Where people
Hmm.
are like, "Oh, AI art is going to be better," but it's like we don't
Nah.
look at art just for how beautiful the final product is. We look at art because it's the artist's process, right?
Yeah.
And it's their emotion and it's their human experience. I do think I think that's a bold statement that the humans are always going to be better than AI. And again, it's an interesting one, and I hold it with tension and curiosity, because there are people who are vehemently um, stating that AI is going to, have superior, already does, or will have even more superior intelligence to humans, etc. I temper that because the people who are usually saying that are selling you the AI. So let's start there. But I think it's a little bit like apples and oranges. The
Hmm.
AI is going to be better than me at my taxes. guiding me on taxes, as an example. I'm not a tax expert. I didn't read the tax code. And I like that it can pull from so many different bases of knowledge. But I think as humans, we're not just a product of our minds and our knowledge. I think that's what's fundamentally misguided with like the Meta chief AI officer saying like, oh yeah, I want to like AI chip in my brain and then I'll be superiorly intelligent and like I don't know the full like, extent of all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking about something that I've just heard a little bit about, to be fair, but I think I think it is important for us to see that like as humans we're so much richer than just our knowledge bases, and that's something that, again, what does that mean in the workplace? What should we be using the humans to do? And
Mhm.
I think another kind of not super dystopian version of the world, but pretty boring version of the world is one where AI does a lot of the work and we're just there to like fact check it and, catch its hallucinations. Like, how boring? Like, what about the creative stuff? What about, people coming together to build things? And yeah, I think some of the like fun stuff is actually getting lost in all of the dystopian elements of this. But I want to bring it back to some of the things that we've spoken about around like employee engagement in particular. Because, we spoke about the fear piece, because I think that is actually going to be really impacting a lot of things in this moment. And a whole bunch of other things that are, I think, at play. What are you noticing when it comes to employee engagement in this moment, and how is AI affecting that?
I think when employee engagement, depending on what space you're in, the number one impact is always going to be the culture of the company.
Yeah.
Is this a company that it feels the same prior to AI, or have you seen changes since AI has been integrated? I think the number one change we all seen is layoffs have occurred,
Yeah.
uh, jobs being reshaped,
Yeah.
restructures occurring. So immediately because of that, employee
Yeah.
engagement is going to be way different because people are just like, am I next?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Or what more can I take on so that way, like, I can outpace the
Yeah.
AI or at least keep up with it. I'm seeing engagement on
Yeah.
both sides. So it's just like you're seeing people engage more of like, I'm trying to keep up, redefine myself,
Yeah.
show my value, show why like my job and what I do is integral to the company. I'm seeing
Yeah.
also more engagement amongst peers where it's just like, hey, we got to hold the line for each other. And
Yeah.
we need to continue, like, even if we're not so much
Yeah.
embedded in the company anymore, we've been here, we've built this, we know what this is, and we need to continue doing this great work. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting to see like certain employees interaction in the space. I think the biggest challenge right now is for a lot of leaders who may have employee resources group in
Mm.
their company, or you have learning and development divisions where it's just like people are now so distracted, as we said earlier,
Yeah.
by what's changing around them that they may not even
Yeah.
care to
Yeah.
partake
Yeah.
in anything because the fear is just like
Yeah.
what once was an outlet or once could have been fun or
Yeah.
enrichment for my
Yeah.
career could also be a
Yeah.
metric being used against me, or I don't even have
Yeah.
joy in it anymore because it's like, why are we doing this? So now you're probably going to see more happy hours. Now you're probably going to see people taking
Mm.
PTO. I think at one point we were going through the ghost quitting era,
Mm.
where I think now it's not even more so about ghost quitting because anywhere you go, you're going to see AI. I think now it's really a reflection in the mirror of just like, what do I want for myself? I think now we're seeing more entrepreneurs get developed because it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't like what I'm feeling here anymore, or
Yeah.
this is good, but I see it going away that I don't really like, or my leaders haven't
Yeah.
communicated to me, hey, this is our next step.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start going for myself and doing what I want. So it's interesting what I'm seeing with employee engagement. I've had conversations with
Yeah.
people, many different companies, colleagues of my own, where they're just like, hey,
Yeah.
we're having problems like keeping folks engaged or wanting to do anything. Like some people clock in at
Yeah.
9, I'm out at 5. If it's
Yeah.
5:02, it's waiting till tomorrow because it's like they have to keep
Yeah.
something for themselves. We're seeing boundaries, we're seeing the accessibility level change. So that's really what I'm
Yeah.
noticing a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many good points that you made. I didn't connect the dots around like employee resource groups and L&D and sort of some of these other ways in which we engage in the workplace that,
Hmm.
help us engage more of our own interests and humanity, and also are an outlet for creativity and connection with others. And, that's where like spontaneous things come up. And I do think right now we're all kind of in this hustle for your role and like prove yourself as worthy of this other force mode that I think is really just kind of undoing, honestly, like I think a decade of really
Hmm.
good work, around DEI, around creativity and innovation. And it is a real shame to see. And I think, what you mentioned earlier about people feeling engaged in a way that they're trying to keep their job. So they're trying to like stay with the competitive advantage. It's still very fear driven, right?
Hmm.
And ultimately, I don't think fear is, it motivates in a particular way and to a particular outcome and on a particular timeline. You can't run on fear indefinitely in a way that I think you can run on creativity indefinitely.
Yeah, I think the best way right now to be successful with AI, despite all that I've been saying about it, again, I'm not against it, but I'm just aware of it. I think
Yeah.
the best way to be successful with AI, you have to make it a teammate instead of a competitor. You have to
Yeah,
figure out, like,
totally.
okay, what are the areas that I know, like, it'll take me years to develop on, that I can
Yeah.
use this to just like speed up the time loop a little bit and then continue doing great what I've always done. And that's what you do. You
Yeah.
use it as not always a coach, but just a teammate where it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, I think I got this, but take a look at it. And then
Yeah.
everything may check out good. It may give you feedback where I'm like, that wasn't really what I was going for. Or it may uncover
Yeah.
something where it's just like, wow, I didn't even think about that part. So
Yeah.
that to me is the most successful way right now to manage
Mm.
engagement, manage
Yeah.
awareness, but just also be comfortable. Use it as a teammate. Don't use it as
Yeah.
your full dependency for job completion
Yeah.
or your competitor, because the truth of the matter is it's being refined so quickly now that it's like to outpace it is going to be a challenge. To keep up with it, it's going to be a challenge as well. But if you can keep up
Yeah.
with it as a teammate of just like, okay, I'm only going to use it for this because this is all I need it for, you'll
Yeah.
be fine.
Yeah. And I think leaders play a huge role in that, right? Because as an
100%.
employee, I can use it as a teammate all I want. It can still replace me because that's not a decision
Hmm.
that's always in my hands, right? And so I think there's a huge role leaders play in having conversations with people and setting up teams in such a way that it is a real collaboration and partnership, and you're putting like the right players in the right positions. And again, not just for the sake of employees and people's engagement and happiness, but also because the technology isn't foolproof. It makes mistakes, that's consistent. Even though it is more precise than a human might be, it also, by virtue of how, being a large language model and probabilistic, it is going to hallucinate and make mistakes. And so I think it's also a risk um, assurance that you're putting in place, and it's a security assurance. So I think leaders play a big role in this moment. And I just think, like at the end of the day, if we like build this whole world of robots and that ultimately like makes our lives as humans miserable, what are we doing it all for,
Yeah, it's like
And
we're
there's
we're
something about
really
holding that. Yeah.
yeah, we're
Okay.
really seeing that movie I, Robot come to life, where it's just like it'll be a revolt soon if we don't slow down. But to your same point about the leaders, like as a leader myself, I
Yeah.
150% make sure I ask everyone that I work with, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
good today? Hey, what's going on? And because again,
Yeah.
I'll pick up on the first view of just like, oh, your mood looks a little down, or I notice like you seem out of
Yeah.
touch, like what's going on? Something AI
Yeah.
can't do. So for
Yeah.
me, it's like that part is very valued. But on a bigger level, as a leader,
Yeah.
it's very important to let your staff know, like, hey,
Yeah.
especially if their jobs can be replaced by AI, let them know what's going on. Let them know the steps that the company is
Yeah.
taking with AI. Be transparent and be fair with them. And I know that,
Yeah.
some leaders may look at it as like, less is more kind of thing. But in this stage, it's like, look, before this AI, you invested and you interviewed each of these people. and you found a
Yeah.
value in them that made them part of your organization. So at least give them that respect to be like, hey, we're working on this
Yeah.
and trying to do this. Here's the next steps we're trying to get to, and allow yourself to paint the picture for folks. So it allows them to say, like, okay, based on where
Yeah.
that's going, where I am now, and what it'll take to get there, I know the next steps. I know what's about to happen. Also, it can be something where you can do this as the employee, say, you know what? Maybe I do want to do some new skills, or it's been a while since I like
Right.
got back and seen
Yeah.
like what's going on in the industry. So again, it's
Yeah.
a reflection piece to it. There's a fear
Yeah.
piece to it. And then there's a
Yeah.
piece of like, you know what? I could collaborate with this and I can use it to my advantage. But like you said,
Yeah.
there's always the element of like, hey, it can replace you. But I think if you operate with that mindset, you limit yourself. So it's really just about
Yeah.
I'm good at what I do. I've been good at what
Yeah.
I do. You have people who've been in their industries or in their fields 30,
Yeah.
40 years. So because this AI tool came out, does that diminish everything that they've done in their entire career? Absolutely not. It's just
Yeah.
now it may even be impressive to them of just like, wow, I remember when I first started this, it took me a year to complete this, and now this can have it
Yeah.
done in a few seconds. So to them, it's just like, oh, that's cool. They may also be at the
Yeah.
tail end of their career, so it's just like, you know what, I'm in a good space. Now, if you've been in the last 10 years and just graduated, it's very challenging right now for you.
Yeah.
Unless you got in when AI first was starting to get integrated and stuff like that. So there's always going to be that piece of like
Yeah.
how engaged you will see your employees or how engaged as an employee you want to be. It's just dependent
Yeah.
on what you see for yourself and what you currently are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to acknowledge a few things there in what you shared. I think it's really tough for new grads right now, and I
Yeah.
just want to like name that. And I think that's such a shame because this is the generation that's actually going to be the most AI savvy because they're growing up with it, you
Hmm.
know. So I think as leaders we need to consider that and consider like, you know, their beginner's mind, like empty white space, sense of possibility, I think was really interesting. And there's a choice for leaders on like, how do you leverage that in a meaningful way? And how do you invest in people? I think part of the reason it's becoming so hard for new grads is because we've lost that interest and muscle around developing people and
Exactly.
work being one of the fundamental ways in which we foster people's development, and their interests and their growth. So I really want to double click on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the other thing that I've noticed too is like we've all seen it. Like everyone has heard the, back in my day, we used to,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
think the problem is that we spend so much time saying that, but we're not
Yeah,
realizing, to your point, that this is the generation that's going to be so AI savvy. So it's kind of like every
yeah,
generation has their like root, as I call it. So
yeah.
you have like early 70s, 80s, where everything was more manual. You got to come together, you got to
Mm,
know this. There was like an expectation for this. This is how it can be done. There's no other way. Then
yeah,
90s, I wouldn't even say late 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Phones are now coming into play.
yeah,
The mobile
yeah,
sidekick comes out, flip phones,
yeah,
camera phones. And it's just like every generation will say, like, okay, that was cool when you were doing it, but look what we got now. And that's literally the
yeah,
space that we're in, where we're like, okay, yeah, we were
yeah,
doing this and we had to go out and we had to impress our boss and we had to dress up like this for an interview. And now we're in a space where people are doing virtual interviews. We're in a
yeah,
space
yeah,
where you
yeah,
can be casual. We're in a space where like having a lunch date can literally be a
yeah,
business meeting. So it's like things change. And I think before we just
yeah,
acknowledge like, oh, you guys are not doing anything, it's just like, I promise you, if they sit down next to you and you give them a test and say, hey, can you use this tool? They're going to outpace you. Why? Because it's
yeah,
their root. So
yeah,
for me, I fully understand that, things change. It's just about being in the race, even if you don't win. Just
yeah,
understand that a race is happening and, keep the legs running and just keep movement. That's the most important part
yeah.
because once you remain stagnant, now you become obsolete. Now you're like, oh, he's just
I
standing there.
agree.
He's not doing anything. Oh, we don't need this. And it's just like,
Yeah,
that's where the human aspect starts to falls to the
yeah,
wayside of just like, why would we do that if that's what they're going to do? So for me, it's very important to
yeah,
just understand where it's like development, important, acknowledgement, important, security of
yeah,
just like, hey, I see you. is
Yeah.
important. And to the biggest point that you've said today, it's on the leaders. We got to make sure that the leaders, of all the
Yeah.
responsibilities they have, that's the most important one. Because what's a leader to a company of zero? So, yeah.
Yeah. And here's one like sad but happy news that I will leave you with, which is in this race, let's say, at the end of the day, it has to recalibrate because if we have like mass layoffs because the AI is just getting better and better and it's living up to its promise and all of those things. Eventually, there'll be so many people who are unemployed that we're going to stop buying things, which means the entire system collapses. And
Hmm.
then, people have to figure out, like, okay, well, this whole thing that we like, this house of cards that we built is very fragile. And so we'll just have to see how that goes. And I love what you said about like stay in the game and don't let, I mean, this is kind of how I interpreted it, but like don't let fear paralyze you. I think
Yeah.
this is a really important moment for individuals to really be thinking about like how do you want to keep growing and evolving in your own, as yourself, and like what interests you, and to keep pushing for that because now there's less space for others to calibrate.
Yeah. And sometimes you just got to remind yourself why you started to begin with. Remind yourself of the
Yeah.
passion. Remind yourself of just like, hey, when I got into this, it was for this. Or, hey, you know what? I
Yeah.
really love this. Because sometimes we're so
So
on
true.
autopilot and we live in a world where like we have smartphones and sometimes the phone is smarter than us because it just sits there. It's become
Yeah.
our biggest distraction. It's become our escape. And it's just like sometimes we forget like, hey, I used
Yeah.
to be really good at cooking, or hey, I used to be really good at basketball,
Right.
or hey, I used to be able to add 7 new words to my vocabulary every week. And it's just like you sit down and you start to look at all the things that's fallen to the wayside, and then you ask yourself, like, why did it? And it's because you changed your priorities and you chose to put things in place where it's just like, this is deemed more important than that. And I'm going to focus on this only, not realizing that that actually started to make you stagnant in certain spaces. So it goes back to what I said, stay in the race. It doesn't matter if you're winning, doesn't matter if you're second, you could be in dead last. But the point is, you were in the race, and that's what counts. It's better to be in the race than on the side watching everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Jack, it's been such a pleasure. I love your healthy skepticism. I just want to say, I loved kind of exploring some of these tensions with you, and I really loved our conversation. Thank you so much for being willing to have this conversation with me and being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think this is amazing. I think this is something that a lot of leaders need, and just like it's so important to have the voice. And I think what you're doing is, like I said, you're keeping the voice, you're keeping us in the race. So thank you to you.